Impressive resume.
Thank you.
You know, and what I love about you is you give practical information. And I feel like that, you know, the top percentile of people, which are like the low 5 to, you know, the 3%, sometimes when financial advisors or anyone in that field comes off, I feel like they're talking to them and they're leaving me out or leaving out the average person. So I feel like your content is really geared towards the average person.
Yes.
So could you give me like the purpose of why you chose to go with practical versus like the big scheme?
That's a good question. So practical savings, it's the small wins that get you the big wins. So a great personal story, and I shared on my Instagram not too long ago, was when me and my husband decided to buy a home, we decided there were some things that needed to go. So we were high subscription based people. We have Amazon Prime, we have XM in the car, you know, so we're like, gosh, we need to make some cuts. So one of the things were getting my nails done. I mean, I'm a girl. I love getting my nails done. It's actually one of my self-care regimens that I do. But after I looked at the numbers, I was like, I spent $100 getting my nails done once a month, and that was not practical. And I was like, you know what? When I was little, I used to paint my nails, and that could still be self-care. So I decided to stop going to the professionals to get my nails done, and I started to paint them myself. And it gave a year we were able to, not just by doing my nails, but a multitude of practical things, be able to save up enough money to put a deposit on the house that we purchased.
Wow. You know, and when you're saying it, it makes me think about when I was first brought into the concept of luxury versus a necessity. And then can you break that down for people? Because I think it's hard for people to really decipher like what they need.
Right.
What's a priority versus what I would like to have, what I want.
Right. So groceries is always, that's a good example because some people are like, off-brand ranch tastes different than right than regular, and they might be a little tanged, a little different, but really what it comes down to is preference too. So if you use coupons and have other methods to lower your rate on one end, it could give you a cushion for something else. So my birthday is in August. And one thing I've done is I've created an email just for coupons because sometimes you get an influx of so many things. The coupons, I signed up for IHOP. I signed up for Dunkin' Donuts, and they all give you free items on your birthday. I could eat free for the whole month of August because of all of the things I signed up for. IHOP, and they do anniversaries. I love that. So I get a coupon for a free fruit and tutti fresh and fruity on my anniversary, and again for my birthday. So just those practical things. You're already doing it. Why not just take the extra step? It's a no-brainer.
Okay. So when it comes to that, right? If someone's like, hey, look, I want to save. You know, I want to start building wealth or start trying to build. Let's start with the basics. Someone wants to build a savings account,
right?
But they think $10 is not enough to save, so they don't save any at all. Should they save what they can, or how should they start with that process?
So the first thing is to gauge your expenses to your income. Okay, so if hopefully you're making more income than your expenses, and it's always good to look back. So once a month is done, it's actually not done. What a thing I like to do with clients is look back a month prior and then reassess what we've gauged. Like, all right, if your allowance is $100 a week, I saw that you went to La Coretta's one week, you went to Fridays the next week, you went to see Arrested Development and bought tickets for that. And all those little things start adding up very quickly. And then you can say, you know what? I didn't do so well doing X, Y, and Z. And then you can see moving forward how you can do better. But you have to look back to do better. You know, anybody say that we repeat history if we don't learn from it. The same thing with your finances. We are not reinventing the wheel here. These are same practical things that your grandma, your mama, your daddy hopefully have spoken into you, and we just really need to take it into practice.
Yeah, and I see a lot of people don't take advantage of the apps because I know with BB&T, I remember at one point they had implemented where you can do like a breakdown of what you're spending. And it's funny if you spend like, people look at it like, oh, I'm spending $6 for this meal, $8 for this meal because it's short shots.
Right.
But in a month's time, once you do that filter, I was surprised on how much money I was spending on food outside the house after spending X amount on groceries.
I've most definitely been in that boat.
Okay, so what is your what is your advice for people who feel like, they can't make certain cuts, like you did for getting their nails done? What are some areas where they can start first?
Well, first of all, if you're someone who pays your credit card on time and you're paying the interest, you are well in your right to call them and say, hey, I'm a good customer. Would you consider taking off your APR rate, not charging me interest? And I have had a couple of clients where they lowered their APR rate to 0%. It's just a matter of opening that conversation. I think people think that they have to take what's given unto them. But a lot of times it's just really opening your mouth. You've had your car for over 2 years and they're charging you 20% interest rate. You've been paying on time or early. I love the early portion. Even if it's 5 days, you have created a reputation with them to go in and say, hey, is there any way we can reconsider lowering my APR rate? Cars, which is a big purchase ticket, because what you don't want to continue to happen is you're paying down on the principal and you're taking the 5 years to pay it off when you could really do it in 2. And that interest rate by itself is a good chunk.
Now, can you break that down? Because that's something that you hear a lot about is, a car and a house, I believe, are the 2 biggest investments that you're going to make. One, and being a house, you can pay down the bill and build equity. Mm-hmm. But a car always loses value, right? So could you tell the importance of how that principal versus interest works? For let's say a $400 payment, and if that's set over 5 or 6 years, what are some strategies that they can do to knock down that interest and try to explain interest so people can understand that?
Yeah, so I'm taking even a simpler number because I can do it in my head easier. Okay. So let's say I say, Jonathan, hey, I really need $100. And he's like, sure, Charese, I'll give you $100. But you need to pay me back in 5 days, and the interest rate is going to be 5%. So I'm like, great, that's fine. So the way simple interest works is that every day, that's daily, you're accruing the interest on the principal by itself. So if you let me borrow $100, every day I owe you $5. So if I pay you 5 days from now, I owe you $125. But if I pay you early in 3 days, I only owe you $115. So $5 each day, 3 days, 3 times 5 is 15. The principal was $100, that's $15. So you imagine if you borrowed the money for a day, you'd be only paying $105. So the difference between paying the 1 day to the 5 is $20.
Wow.
And we're just talking about 5 days. So imagine you had a credit card or a car, a bigger amount, and you took 2 years, how much interest, just even in a month's time, could quickly accumulate so quickly. So even if you just paid the extra $10, it's worth it because you could possibly pay it off in less, maybe take it off a year.
So what could an extra $50 do per month to someone's car payment?
Oh my goodness.
That's
well, for the first thing is it'd be hitting the principal. That's what you want to lower. You want to lower the principal. Have you ever, that's another thing, a lot of people don't look at their credit card bill. They just pay the minimum or pay whatever they're going to pay. Have you ever noticed that as you put more money, as your credit limit increases, the more the minimum is, because now you got to remember the principal of the amount that you owe them went up. Vice versa, the more you pay, the lower your principal is, the less they require for you to pay on that minimum, because they're hoping you just pay the minimum so they can charge you that interest. So keep paying. If your card, you're paying, you got furniture, you just use something different. You bought some furniture, it was $1,000, and you're paying $100. And then somehow when you get to that $500, all of a sudden they're like, oh, we just want you to pay $50 now. No, I'm going to keep paying that $100 so I can pay it off faster. You're not going to keep me tied up for 5 years. That's always the 5 years is probably the best example because most places have their loan for that period of time.